You are listening to MINDSHOCK. This is your host, Bruce McGuire, in one of the most long awaited exposés with receipts. Coincidence Theorist Trigger Warning. This has been one of the most triggering conspiracies that coincidence theorists have been cope spiraling and melting down over for over a decade, pretending and hallucinating there couldn't be any evidence that's legitimate at all regarding bad people doing bad things. I don't know why, but coincidence theorists seem to have severe mental disabilities in not comprehending that there's evil people out there and they don't always act alone. Shocking. Mind shock. I mean, who would have thunk it that criminals can't act alone? That just they can act alone. They can't act alone or they can act alone? Like, as if both scenarios can't be true. Some criminals act alone, some don't. Ain't rocket science, but for coincidence theorists, for authority worshipping cultist bootlickers, it's a bridge too far. It's a bridge too far. But as always, in typical mind shock fashion, we will be going over receipts, irrefutable, documented evidence that even the most devout coincidence theorists in the post-Epstein era might have some trouble with, maybe, if they have functioning brains, possibly. As always, we'll be going over all of this and more in typical mind shock fashion with logic and reason at the forefront, attempting not to fall for any logical fallacies, unlike pretty much everything else out there. If you want to help support the podcast, you can do it to our PayPal. Check the link in the description. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case, topic, logical analysis, podcast, or request. You could also be a guest in the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. Or if you were with us here live, drop them in the live chat. I'll try to get to all of them. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Welcome, Flat Bob. AC97. Flat Bob says, they're all sick and twisted people. Anyone who can't see the obvious has been blinded by the god of this world. Are you talking about, what are you talking about exactly? Are you referencing the earth being Satan's domain? AC97 says, Jeff's gotta have his jerky. Well, I want to go over the timeline here. I want to go over the timeline because for over a decade now, the mainstream media has been maintaining that this was all some wacky, crazy, right-wing conspiracy theory. Actually, before we even get into that, let's get into the track record of the government and conspiracy theorists, aka critical thinkers, aka those that are corruption aware. So before we even get into this, like, a lot of goofs hallucinate. I don't know if it's Stockholm Syndrome or what's going on here, but a lot of coincidence theorist goofs hallucinate that the government would never do anything bad. And you know what's weird? There's a contingent of these goofs who actually do have the mental capacity to understand MK Ultra, Tuskegee, the poisoning of St. Louis. That's a big one nobody talks about. I'm going to do a whole podcast on that one. Operation Mockingbird, of course, Northwoods, all of these things that were either planned and executed or simply planned and not executed. Like, the level of goofery required to hallucinate that the government, the American government, has never and would never do bad things. I mean, that's just insanity. That's just insanity. And so, but there's a certain percentage, and I don't know if this group is even dumber, that says, oh yeah, the government definitely did bad things in the past, but they would never do it now. And you saw this type of goofery all through the 90s, the 2000s with 9/11, with the incident in Connecticut, even with the Boston Marathon bombing, all of these things, 9/11, like, a lot of these goofs fully acknowledge that the government in the past would definitely do evil things and has, but the people in the government now, they're just magically immune from corruption. They're magically immune. So therefore, none of the new, the old conspiracy theories, maybe those were true, but none of the new ones are true. And this is the level of gophery that is modern coincidence theorist bootlegging. So just on the surface, if you know somebody who's a liar that lies about everything, I mean, yeah, maybe they're telling the truth the next time, but why would you just believe them on default? Again, even basic logic aside, let's pretend you don't even know what logic is. Let's talk about preschool level street smarts. Like, let's just do that. Just preschool level street smarts. So during recess, if a kid is always stealing your toy or playing a trick on you where they pretend to give you a toy and then pull it away, are you magically going to believe they're not going to pull it away the next time? I mean, this is the mental capacity or lack thereof. We're dealing with coincidence theorists. So whenever there's a supposedly wacky, crazy new conspiracy theories from these right-wingers or whoever, like, you would be more accurate to just assume they're correct statistically. Now, that is fallacious. You shouldn't do that. But just on the balance of probabilities, you'd be correct more often than not. That's what's funny about all this. And this is like preschool level. These are preschool level logical concepts here. So if somebody's always lying, are you going to assume they're telling the truth the next time? I mean, maybe they are, and they might be. You should definitely, examine for evidence if you're being logical. But would your default standard position be, okay, they always lied about everything all the time, but now they're telling the truth. So when... So they've denied every single conspiracy theory that has since been proven true, but this next denial is legitimate. They're definitely innocent this time. I mean, wow. The gopher is just stratospheric with coincidence theorists. All right. Bridget Martini says, great topic. Let's get right down to the cancer. Let there be light, L-I-T-E. That's a cool name. Satan, quote, all these things I will give you if you fall down and do an act of worship to me, end quote. Billy Labadie, hi Bruce, buddy, keep doing what you do, brother, as always. Logic and reason at the forefront here. Let there be light says, Jesus, quote, get behind me, end quote. AC97 says, so many people are brainwashed into living a normal life when nothing is normal about reality. Yeah, that's called the normalcy bias. But the normalcy isn't even legitimate, so it's a hallucinatory bias on top of that. Flat Bat Dad. That's a good name. Hey, Bruce, thanks for all you do for the pursuit of logic and reasoning. Yep. Chin Chin, sour cream type beat. Chin Chin, where have you been, Chin Chin? Haven't seen Chin Chin in a while. So, now that we've laid the groundwork of the history,